You're listening to Real Returns, where we learn how real leaders are finding real purpose through the work they do. Join your hosts, Andrew and Dan, as they interview leaders about how their businesses are creating meaningful change for individuals and communities around the world.
Welcome back to Real Returns. We've got an exciting episode in store today. This is our Season 8 recap. Season 8, we do 2 seasons a year, and I never have been very good at math, but I think that means we've been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years in the rearview mirror. It's crazy. Been at it for a long time. And honestly, it's so cool that we've gotten to interact with so many interesting people and build our network. So yeah, really cool.
One of my favorite things about the podcast is just talking to folks, either who we know or just getting ready to know, and just hearing their story, hearing about how they think about impact, hearing about the impact that they're having in their businesses and in their investments. And I learned something new on every episode. So I've always actually said, like, hey, if nobody listens to this, that's fine with me. Like, I'm actually enjoying it and learning something new.
I totally agree. And it's been really neat as we've transitioned the podcast in the last couple of seasons to more entrepreneur type people kind of hearing their stories. I think that has just elevated the level of storytelling that we get to hear and the life lessons that we get to glean from such a really interesting and accomplished group of people. So it's been super fun. And this past season was no exception.
Yeah. And I think it's also a little reassuring to us as entrepreneurs ourselves. I think when you hear other people and the struggles that they've gone through, it's like, oh, we're not alone. Yeah. And when we're figuring out our own challenges, it kind of comes with the territory.
It's very humanizing getting to talk to entrepreneurs and people who have climbed the mountain and been very successful. And they talk about just the reality of what it looked like to get there and the hard days. And yes, super kind of levels the playing field. And to your point, it encourages me when I'm down in the dumps and going through the rough days. So
yeah, they say entrepreneurship is lonely, and it's fun when you can talk to somebody else who's gone through a similar experience and just learn from them. So let's talk through the episodes. And it's really interesting. We had 3 in-person episodes this season, which I think is the most in-person we've ever had. And so we kicked it off with Greg Fearon, who's here in Pittsburgh. I've known him probably for almost 10 years at this point. You and I have been partners for over 10 years. And I think I met him right around that time. We were in a small mastermind group together, and he's a certified financial planner. But I really like when he was on our episode, he talked about he's trying to solve like this Cheesecake Factory problem where people have too many options. I don't know if you've ever been to Cheesecake Factory. You look at their menu and it's like a book. You could be there like all day reading it. And I thought it was really good where he talked about how to solve kind of the paralysis analysis from the clients and just simplify the investing relationships. What were some of the things you got out of that episode?
I'll tell you what, first of all, it was just neat for me to connect with Greg in that context. He's someone who's been around my orbit because I know you guys have spent a lot of time together, but I'd never really gotten to kind of go deep with him and hear some of his vision for what he's building. What I really loved was the simplicity of his model, doing something subscription-based. I heard a lot of passion for technology. I also really appreciated his passion for his Teach Passion Summit, where he's trying to invest in people and build leaders. But I think some of the honest takeaways were just like he has a pretty simple approach to what he does, and it really isn't rocket science. You can tell he's trying to stay on top of trends and be a subject matter expert, which is important in his field. But he also, to your point, keeps it pretty simple. I think he has a system that works for people, and in his business, it's really about building trust. I thought it was pretty funny. Financial planning for yins or something. Like they had this specific slogan, of the Pittsburgh marketing component. But for his target market, Pittsburghers are simple people and they like to kind of keep things simple. So I thought it was pretty smart, and I'm seeing his business do really well. So learned a lot from Greg and really enjoyed it.
Well, he's definitely a marketing and branding genius too. That slogan is an example of it, but I don't think I've ever seen him with less than 30 Baritone logos on his body and car. It's honestly just insane. So I've learned a lot from him from that. And one of the things he said personally was that he doesn't plan to leave money for his daughter. And that really resonated with me. I read the book Die with Zero, and I've, honestly, when I read that book, I was like, oh, I could have wrote this book. Like, this is a philosophy that I have subscribed to before I even knew it was a philosophy. So I just, I talked to a lot of family offices. I was in Dubai at a family office conference, and I'm always just curious about asking them, like, hey, what are you going to do with all that money? Or like, how do you want to be remembered? And those questions are always so striking to people.
Mhm.
And what I loved about him is he wants to pass down something that he believes is more important than money. It's the core values and the principles that he believes he wants his daughter to live by. So it really hit my heart and resonated with me.
Yeah, I found it really challenging because it's something that, as a father of a group of kids, I think about these kinds of things.
A big group of kids, five of those humans.
That's right. And I think about this stuff a lot. And, I didn't have money growing up, and I have not been given anything. And that's honestly been an excellent experience for me to just kind of have to figure it out. And so it's a challenging thing because there is a desire. For me, there's an innate desire to want to give to my children and for them to have it better than I had it, but better doesn't necessarily mean easier. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
Where I've landed on that, I just used this phrase last week. I don't even know where I heard it, but I want to give my kids enough money that they can do anything, but not enough that they can do nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like an actual answer.
I think that's a Warren Buffett.
Is that a Warren Buffett thing?
Maybe it's Warren Buffett. I forget. But yes, I've heard that. And I think it's smart. And,
yeah. Like you want to empower them that they can do anything that they want to do, but not enough money that
absolutely
they can do nothing. So
cool. Well, so that was Greg. Next up, we had Adam Taki. Adam is the president of Lien Holding, which I thought this was really interesting. Even in myself being in the real estate business, that's kind of like a black box to me, this whole tax lien certificate concept of investing in that. I wasn't able to participate in that podcast, but what are some of the things that you took away from your conversation with Adam?
Oh gosh, a lot. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I wanted to have him on the show. I like to have folks who do different things and can just bring a different perspective. We do, I don't want to call it plain vanilla, but like we buy multifamily apartments and operate them. This guy's buying, tax liens. And I had a totally different perspective on what I thought he did. I thought you buy a tax lien and you foreclose. He said 99% of the time they don't foreclose. They actually want that to be a performing loan. And so they're buying, or performing lien in this case, they're buying the tax lien as an asset, as an investment asset. And I thought it was just really interesting to think about the impact. I mean, he's basically taking an asset that's often a non-performing asset and making it a performing asset. So if you think about the impact of that, you've got these blighted assets all across the country and they've got these tax liens and they're not being taken care of. And he converts them into performing assets. I mean, that is a real, value to the world.
Yeah.
And it's, a lot of people look at different investors and they may have a preconceived notion, oh, it's just about the money. It's just about the money. I think that's part of what we're trying to do with this show is say, yes, there's a financial incentive. There's that bottom line, but there's the double bottom line, the triple bottom line. There's more ways that you can have impact by doing well, by doing good.
Yeah. I love that for him that, I agree. I think when you hear tax lien, you think, oh, like loan shark kind of, like I'm betting on someone else failing.
Right.
But to take the opposite approach and to actually succeed more by someone else, having a successful outcome as well. I thought that was really clever and different from what I understood it to be. The other thing that I thought about that conversation was just the power of mastering a niche. That's a little kind of quirky corner of the world that not a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about. But if you can get one little quirky corner of the world really right, you can do extremely well. And that's something that I thought of for him. It's pretty cool.
They say the riches are in the niches, but some people call it a niche. So the riches are in the niches just does not sound nearly as cool. Do you say niche or niche?
I say niche, but
okay.
Maybe I should rethink.
Do you say
that.
Finance or finance?
Oh, I say finance.
Do you?
But I've said finance a couple times. Depends on who's.
I do. I don't know why. I think it's like an old PNC thing or something. Anyway,
that's like a Wall Street way to say.
All right, but do you say GIF or GIF?
I say I'm probably inconsistent on that.
Really, you go both. Probably because your kids say GIF.
I say Jeff, yeah, but I've probably said GIF.
Yeah. Okay, that's the age-old debate. So I just wasn't sure where you landed on it. Patrick Colletti. So we got to have one of our investors on the show and somebody who I think you and I both have learned a lot from through the years. He's really an impressive entrepreneur. What did you get out of that episode?
So, I mean, Patrick, first of all, again, just feeling so privileged to be able to have someone of his caliber on the show, both his acumen in executing in the business world and also him as a human and his influence on the Pittsburgh region and the entrepreneurial culture here. So just grateful to have him around. His book, Refounder, I couldn't put it down when I read it. And what I liked about your conversation was he just kind of reminded us of what that means and how it's applicable, not just to a particular moment in time when, someone might be in a certain stage of startup and try and, convert that to a different business, but what it means to have a refounder mindset as you go about your life, whether you're in a big giant corporation or whether you're, a stay-at-home mom, just being able to have that mindset of how can I take the thing that I'm putting my hand to and chart a different future than there might otherwise be by taking a fresh perspective. So yeah, that was just kind of the main thing. Patrick, I think when I think of Patrick now, I think about this kind of refounder mindset and mentality that he's taken. How about you?
Yeah, I thought that was really good. One of the things I really liked that he said, and I'd be curious actually to hear your perspective on this. So I was like, can anybody be a refounder, or are certain people wired to be that way? And he said, I do think there are some people that are wired to win and some people that are wired not to lose. Mm-hmm. And so when he took over the company, it was like a not to lose kind of a thing, right? He's like, look, this company's failing. We're going down. We're the last 2 employees and we're either going to save it or not. Mm-hmm. How would you say you're wired? Can I ask? Have you thought about that?
Oh boy. It depends. I think it depends on the setting. I don't know that I have a binary answer to that. I hate losing though.
Yeah.
I will say that. I think about even the business that we have generally put our hands to. Winning oftentimes is just not losing. If you just hit a single, you just get on base, get a single or a double, that's pretty good. Yeah. And I'll say this, look, I mean, early in my career, I was at a venture capital firm, and what I hated about it was that 9 out of 10 checks we wrote went to zero.
Right.
And I think the people probably that are wired to win are totally fine with that, because the 1 out of 10 gives them the mountaintop experience that makes up for the 9 out of 10. But I was driven nuts by the fact that 9 out of 10 weren't going to work. So maybe think about it, probably wired not to lose. What about you?
I think maybe the opposite, but I'm not sure. I actually was wondering if you were, so you have Enneagram 3, is that right?
Yeah.
So that's like the achiever. And I think you have achiever in your top 5 strengths, if I'm not wrong. So I was actually wondering if the achiever was more wired to win. But actually having heard what you just said makes a lot of sense, particularly given your history, hitting singles and doubles versus trying to swing for the fences and striking out, 9 out of 10 times. That's definitely you. I think I'm a little the opposite there, but also maybe a little bit the opposite on, more wired to swing for those fences sometimes. Yeah. So I'm honestly not sure, but probably.
It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
The other concept that Patrick talked about, and I've heard him talk about a lot over the years, is this concept of running partner, and how helpful that is in leadership roles. And I've seen that, and in many ways, Patrick has been at times a running partner to me.
Yeah.
And it's inspired me to want to be a running partner to other people. But I love that concept. I'm a runner. I've been a runner, for my whole adult life. And you really can just go a lot farther if there's somebody right next to you, just doing it with you and telling you to keep going. So that was a helpful concept to remember, and honestly an encouraging thing to lean into.
All right. So let me ask this then. You and I are both pretty into AI. Just before we start recording, I was talking about my Mac Mini over here that's running Hermes and, running 4 agents autonomously. And a couple of weeks ago in our Monday team meeting at Burgo, I talked about Microsoft just came out with their study. They analyzed 200,000 users, hundreds of thousands of chats. And most people are using AI, 49% of chats, which is the majority, as a thinking partner. It's not really to do task work. It's actually to decision make. So I'm not saying that, this running partner concept is ever wrong or going to go out of style, but do you use AI as a thinking partner, as a running partner?
For sure. I mean, I think for me, it depends on the use case. Like myself personally, I'm mostly using ChatGPT as a running partner, and I'm using Claude as a get work done like employee.
Yeah.
But I use them both in various running partner capacities. I don't think they replace the value of a human running partner in a lot of ways, but I do certainly use it in that capacity. And not just in the work context. Frequently for me, parenting philosophy questions: how should I handle this particular situation, or what might be going on in the mind and body of my 8-year-old right now?
Right.
So that stuff I think is super helpful. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's where I go first. I would say it's like my gut reaction. I try to, I agree, it doesn't replace a human, but I find myself so much more empowered and bringing better questions to my human thinking partners, which is usually my spouse or you or other people that I work with. When I've already done the work with Claude or GPT, I've already thought through it. Like they've given me the things to think through. I created this skill in Claude that's called Grill Me that basically pushes back on anything I tell it. It honestly has gotten so annoying. I literally had to, a meeting before this, I had to ask Ed to approve something because Claude told me if I didn't get Ed's approval on it, Claude wasn't going to give me the prompt because it's pushing back so hard on me. And so I found that like, that's often what I need. And Claude knows all my personality assessments. It knows I'm a 2295 on the Colby, a 7-wing 8, high visionary, I'm a high quick start. And it's like, okay, I'm going to ratchet all that back by being the opposite in terms of a thinking partner. So honestly, I found it really incredible and very helpful.
What's ironic, and then we can move on to the next episode, but I haven't actually given my AI sources much of my personality assessment type stuff. I should really do that because I think it would be very helpful for it to be educated on some of those components of my DNA. So
yeah, for sure. I think
you mentioned that.
Yeah, when it knows that. So that's what we do. The whole Rhino operating system, ROS thing that we came up with at Burgo, we go through that. We've gone through it with our leadership team, and really every employee has access to it. But the concept is start with who, right? You got to start with your unique DNA. Anytime you're asking a question or thinking about the work that you're going to do or thinking about your purpose, it really all starts with who. So having those assessments helps the AI understand your unique DNA, your unique who.
Makes perfect sense. Yep.
And he wasn't the only investor we had on our show. We had Dinakar Golla, who's actually been an investor with us since the very beginning. We've known him for a really long time. What did you get out of that episode?
Well, Dinakar has a special place in my heart and our hearts. It's been a helpful and authentic relationship over the years. The conversation specifically, honestly, what struck me most was I did not know the component of his story. So for those of you listening, to recap Dinakar, he's a very successful entrepreneur and plastic surgeon. He's built an extremely compelling practice, and he's let that parlay his career into some private equity activity specific in the healthcare space. But he talked about mentorship, and I didn't know that there was a fork in the road early in his story where someone spoke some wisdom into his life and encouraged him to pursue a different path than the one that he was on. And he listened, and that totally shaped, the rest of his professional career. So that was interesting to me, and just a reminder of the importance of mentorship, both upward and downward, across the kind of the food chain of people in different life stages. So yeah, that was the thing that stuck out most to me from that conversation. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really liked, obviously in his business, so he's done the surgeon thing and then moved on to investing in really impact investments in healthcare, which is again making him a perfect fit for our show, a perfect fit as an investor. A lot of our investors care about impact because we have an impact thesis to what we do. But he was talking about the healthcare industry and how there's this misalignment of incentives. And it just kind of got me stuck on this idea of aligned incentives and how incentives really matter. They drive behavior. And in healthcare, they tend to be so misaligned between the healthcare provider and the insurance company. And so he's investing in all these startups that are trying to fix that issue that just has these massive dollars that can be unlocked if it's solved in a, in a unique way. And so I just love his heart for that. I think it's going to be a really impactful thing that he does. I'm sure some of these startups he's investing in are going to take off and be really successful.
Yeah, for sure. One other tidbit on Dinakar I just have to share. It's something that I really respect about him that we've connected on over the years. It didn't come up in the podcast, but just his philosophy on sales. We've talked a lot about growing a business and how to effectively bring a product to someone that might want or need it. And something that we've connected on is just this philosophy of, if it's good for you, then I want it for you. In his plastic surgery business, he's having conversations with people about what the implications might be for their life of the service that he offers. And he has no agenda. It's really just, if this is a good thing for you, then so be it. Great. I'm happy to provide a service. And I've taken that approach a lot in fundraising with limited partners over the years, where look, we're talking because this might be a good thing for you. And if it is, great, welcome aboard. And if not, I want what's best for you. And so just taking that what's good for you is what's good for me kind of perspective, I think is something that I have gleaned from him over the years. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's funny how taken aback investors are when you take that approach. Like, it shouldn't be that rare that people take the approach that I actually want what's best for you, not like necessarily the sale. I care about you. We're like, you care about me? Like, yes, I actually do. I care about you as a human more than, your investment in this fund or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's such a special gift when you can align that way.
Great stuff. Well, there were a few more episodes in the season that I was not able to participate in. One was Mary Fearon. She's the CEO of On Purpose. And Mary's work is focused on bringing really purpose into the workplace and addressing this epidemic of employee disengagement in the workplace and trying to make work a place of meaning for people. So tell me a little bit about what you learned from your conversation with Mary.
Yeah, gosh, Mary and I probably could have talked for 3 hours and recorded a very long episode. So when I met Mary, I had just been wrapping up the manuscript for Priorities on Purpose, the book that I wrote that talks about the Rhino operating system. And you know this, but I've been thinking about a second book called Investing on Purpose, and a third book then called Giving on Purpose. And the entire series is like on purpose, right? It's this concept of on purpose, and I'm actually calling it Living on Purpose. So I met her, and her company's name is On Purpose. And I was like, we're meant to know each other. And so the crazy thing too, is all of her personality assessments are like almost exactly the same as mine. She's like an Enneagram 7, and she's like high quick start. And she's really similar to me in a lot of ways. So we just both have this like high energy, like we're riffing off each other. And the thing, I actually just got this question. The Pittsburgh Business Times just did an article. They were interviewing me and said, hey, like, if you weren't during Burgo, what would you do? And I'm like, it's a hard question for me to answer because I genuinely love what I do every single day. But what I would do is actually exactly what Mary's doing. I care so much about this employee engagement concept, really getting people aligned with their purpose and living into that day in and day out. Now, today we get to do that with the 100 employees at Burgo, which I love doing. But there are millions of employees out there that I don't get to touch. And so if I really was doing something other than Burgo, it would be helping people understand their unique DNA, their who, live into their purpose, and then really find what we call the convergence zone, which is the combination of their purpose, passions, and proficiencies. And so Mary's doing that day in and day out. And I'm like, this is so fun. I really love the work that she's doing.
I have no doubt that at some point in your life, you will spend the pie of your time will shift a little bit more to being able to directly do that kind of work. You're already doing it in so many ways today, but that makes perfect sense that you would, so connect with that. So yeah, really cool. And I'm glad that we're able to have Mary on and offer her perspective to our guests and maybe get them thinking about what purpose looks like for them in the things that they're doing.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun episode. We also had Hisham Albahar on. Now, Hisham and I met in Dubai. I mentioned I go to these conferences, meet family offices, talk about investing, talk about capital. And he and I had lunch in Dubai and just really hit it off. He also has a podcast, so I was like, I have a podcast. Why don't you be on my podcast? and he's just really interesting because he's buying up these logistics companies in Dubai. And we were talking about impact, and it's like, wow, if you think about it, the logistics industry does so much. Like, I mean, just again, Amazon, you order something, it's coming the same day or next day at the latest. And like, if I don't get Amazon boxes, I'm like, I'm shaking. I'm like, what's wrong? Where is the mail? But all that's powered by the logistics industry. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you thought about it.
Yeah, I think that what he's doing is really fascinating because of the moment that we're in as a global human race, and the kind of centrality and tension that takes place in his context where he does his work. So that's something that I'm thinking about for him, is just like, man, the complexity of and just the convergence of cultures, and sometimes clashing cultures, and the things that he has to deal with from a business execution standpoint.
Yeah.
Handling all these, facets and layers and geopolitical, factors that really, honestly, I mean, we touch them very, very tangentially, but like, we don't have to think about that stuff. So I just kind of have an admiration for people who are successfully navigating in that complexity and, doing it across different cultures and amidst, tensions and conflict. That's one of the things I thought about that I admire for what he's doing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And one of the things that's really cool, so I met him through YPO, and the YPO network, I think, just does a good job of going deep and being vulnerable with each other. And I just appreciated, so literally I was in Dubai 2 weeks before the war broke out. So honestly, we talked a good bit about that. It's like, how are you? How is your family? And he didn't shy away, from just being vulnerable. And one of the things I'm really grateful for with YPO is that's like an expectation of like, we're going to go deep. We're not just going to hit the surfacey stuff. So like, obviously we talked about his business too, but gosh, we have this ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And he's right in the middle of it. And so it was interesting to talk about that as well.
Yeah. Neat. And then lastly, we had Afif Ghanum, who has a lot of experience in the supplement space, which I know is something that is also easy for you to talk about for 3 hours. So maybe you curated our guest list just about the stuff that's fun for you to talk about this season, which is awesome. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about your chat with Afif and some of your key takeaways there.
Yeah, Afif's an entrepreneur and, in the consumer packaged goods space, but really specifically supplements. And I didn't realize it at the time. We were doing our pre-podcast chat, and he's telling me about supplements. And I said, hey, I won't share this online, but like, who are your clients? And he names all of the companies that I buy supplements from. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can I get you to review my supplement list and tell me what you think of it? And so, yeah, for our listeners, you may be wondering what the heck we're talking about. I take 66 pills a day right now, 40 different supplements, and I take them, across 4 times a day. So morning, lunch, dinner, evening. And some people like, oh, supplements, do they really do anything? But now the research is showing, and I get my blood work every quarter, and you can actually see like the impact these supplements are having. So it was a lot of fun just to talk about that. And, again, just speaking of getting personal and getting vulnerable, I had cancer, 12 years ago. And so I wasn't always into health and fitness. I wasn't always into supplements. It was really a wake-up call for me. We were just in our first year of marriage, and I got diagnosed with a type of testicular cancer. And, we were told, hey, you might not be able to have kids, and Andrew might die. And those are just like really sobering things to deal with. And so I think a lot of people don't think about blood work and supplements and longevity and optimization of health and diet and exercise until they had some wake up call. And
Yeah.
so that was my wake up call. And it really was just fun to talk to them about it.
Yeah. And I understand there was some AI component to the work that he does too, and the way that impacts our humanity too. And I thought that was kind of interesting hearing his take on how it frees us up in a lot of ways to not have to do the boring stuff and to get to lean into the things that are actually interesting for us. So that was another component of that conversation that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. So then like he has my two favorite things like in one episode. So I was just this past weekend telling my wife, because I was on my laptop on a Saturday, which I never am. I take a Sabbath from Friday night to Sunday morning, no work. And so I was on my laptop and I was like, hey, just so you know, babe, if you see me on my laptop on a Saturday during Sabbath, like I'm doing either health and fitness stuff or AI stuff. And like, that's it. There's no work. Like I can't even get into my email or Slack or anything on the weekend. But those are my two hobbies right now. Like some people play video games. These are my video games.
Yeah.
Like I'm in front of the laptop now and I'm playing with Claude Code and stuff. So the fact that he is both using AI in the supplement industry, again, definitely, struck a chord with me, something I found super fascinating.
Super cool. Yeah. I get it. There's almost a video game component to doing some AI stuff and
for sure,
just building. So
yeah,
really cool.
Yeah. So that was the last episode. What anything in terms of takeaways or things that were themes from the season?
Thinking again to the kind of the Dinakar and Patrick conversations, just concept of aligning incentives and getting people rowing in the same direction. Align incentives, culture, something that was talked about a lot.
Yeah, Patrick and Mary both talked about culture a lot
throughout the season, and that's we're no stranger to that. That's a beat, a drum you've been thumping for the entirety of Burgo's history. So those are some themes, but honestly, again, from where I sit, just humility is something that I observe in these people. They're very human and they're willing to talk about the more challenging parts of their journeys, and that's very humanizing. Yeah. How about you? What themes and stuff?
I agree with all those things. I mean, I've learned so much from Patrick and Mary about building a culture. It's one of my favorite things to think about, one of my favorite things to do. We also talked about there was a lot of like very niche organizations and things that these folks are doing. And, again, this concept of the riches are in the niches, like find something small to do and just do that thing, do it well. It's kind of the hedgehog concept that I think is very successful, very effective as a leader. And then I liked your point on humility. I was actually going to mention a similar point on vulnerability. I think just when you're willing to be vulnerable, talk about not just what's working. Everybody loves to talk, hey, how's your day going? Great. When somebody's like, here's the thing that's not working, that really opens up an entire conversation. It makes the conversation so much more rich, so much more deep. And so I really appreciated that about our guests this season.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I think we're just, again, privileged. And if anything, it just makes me excited about, I know we have a lineup of guests that we're talking to here pretty soon for season 9. So excited about that and excited to keep learning and growing from people that we get to interact with here.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much, guests, for listening in. Thank you for supporting us for 4 years. We've really enjoyed doing this show. All of our guests that came on this past season, thanks for being a part of this season. And enjoy the summer off. And we'll be back online in the fall with season 9 of the Real Returns podcast. We'll see y'all then.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Real Returns. Tune in every other Wednesday for more conversations around investing, entrepreneurship, and how business can instill a sense of purpose.